Hello everyone, it's Glenda and welcome back to Creative Grandma. It's Stitch of the Week time and this week's stitch is number 60 and it's called the Twisted Single Crochet Stitch. So I have to give a special shout out to one of my patrons of my channel. She contacted me and she said, Glenda, I love the Twisted Single Crochet, but is there a way to turn this into an actual stitch pattern that you can do row by row? We together, with her help, she sent me some pictures of what she was trying to develop with the Twisted Single Crochet. And together we created the Twisted Single Crochet row by row stitch. Here is our version. So if this stitch pattern has already been created, I didn't know about it. I couldn't find any information on it. All I knew was that there was a twisted single crochet that most people use as an edging stitch. So we took this edging stitch and we turned it into a row by row stitch. Enjoy the video. I have 3 samples to show you. Again, this is the Twisted Single Crochet. It's pattern number 60, Stitch of the Week. This is available as a free downloadable pattern on our website. It's just a really simple stitch once you learn how to do it, and it's a 1-row repeat. Now this one is made with a self-striping colored yarn. This is Lion Brand's Landscape. It's beautiful yarn to work with, and this is what it looks like. The one nice thing about this pattern is it is a reversible pattern. So this is the right side of the work, and when you turn it over, it looks exactly the same. So it's a wonderful pattern if you like those reverse patterns. My second sample was made using crisp clean white. I always like to do that white sample. You can see the stitch definition a little bit better on the solid colors. This is what it looks like on the front. And when you turn it over, it looks exactly the same. And my third sample was made using a multicolored yarn, and this is Karen's Simply Soft Multicolored Yarns Paint. Absolutely wonderful yarn. Now the only thing is that when I was using this yarn, it was a little bit harder to do because the yarn was so slippery. So if you have really slippery yarn, it seemed to be a little bit harder for me to do. When you use the little bit rougher yarns or like the worsted yarns like the Red Heart Super Saver, it was a little easier to work. Now the one thing about this stitch pattern is whatever crochet hook size is recommended on the yarn label, you really need to jump that hook size up 1 or 2 sizes larger, and you need to crochet loosely in order for this stitch pattern to be easy to work. So just make sure the smaller the hook, the harder it's going to be to work these stitches. You need to keep those stitches loose. Now this stitch pattern has no multiple. You just need to make a chain, but you need to make it larger than 3 chains. You have to have at least 3 chains for the pattern. We're going to start with the single crochet, work the twisted single crochet across, and end with the single crochet. So let's get started. Now for this pattern, it has no stitch multiple. You need at least 3 chains, but you can chain any number of chains as long as it's larger than 3 chains. I already attached my yarn to the hook. I just tied a double knot. You can use whichever method you prefer, a slip knot or however you want to attach your yarn. You're going to yarn over the hook, pull it through the loop on your hook, and that creates your first chain. Yarn over, pull through, that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now the one thing about this pattern is you need to start with a single crochet and end with a single crochet. Because of the twisting of the stitch, it creates a longer top piece on that stitch when it's finished, so it's hard to end the pattern with a twisted single crochet. We're going to skip this first chain. You're going to insert into the second chain from hook, and you're going to work a single crochet. Yarn over, pull through that chain, and pull through 2 loops on your hook. That created your first stitch of row 1, and you worked a regular single crochet. So now we're going to begin the twisted single crochet. So insert your hook into the next chain. You're going to yarn over and pull through that chain. You have 2 loops on your hook. You need to pull this loop that you just made up until it's twice as high as the loop on your hook. And this is very important in order to do this row by row. So once your loop is twice as high, you're going to take your hook and twist it from the left to the right, and then from the right back to the front. You're going in a complete circle. You need to make sure that this is loose, and that needs to be loose so you can get your stitches through that stitch. You're going to yarn over and pull through the loop on your hook, and that creates the twisted single crochet. So we're going to work it clear across our little sample because it's a stitch that you have to get used to doing, because the way you turn your hook completely in a full circle. Insert into the next chain, yarn over and pull through. Take your hook and pull that loop twice as high as the one on your hook. Make sure that is at least twice as high and is a longer stitch. You're going to take your hook and turn it from left to right and all the way around in a full circle. Kind of pull up on your hook, yarn over and pull through the 2 loops on your hook. It creates like a double loop. And you can see how it's twisting that stitch and creating the twisted single crochet. Insert into the next chain, yarn over and pull through. Pull up on your hook and make sure that loop is twice as high as the one on your hook. Turn your hook from left to right, and then from right to left all the way in a full circle. You'll notice you have the 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through both loops on your hook. Insert into the next chain, yarn over and pull through. Pull up on your hook, make sure that loop is twice as high as the one on your hook. Take your hook from left to right, turn it in a full circle. Now, if you're left-handed, I'm not sure, it might just be the opposite of what you're seeing. Yarn over and pull through the 2 loops on your hook. We have a few more stitches to go. Insert into the next chain, yarn over and pull through. Pull up on your hook, make sure that's twice as long as the loop on your hook. Take your hook from left to right, right to left in a full circle. Pull up on your hook, yarn over and pull through the 2 loops on your hook. And you can see the design starting to form with that twisted single crochet. Insert into the next chain, yarn over, pull through, pull up so that loop is twice as high as the one on your hook. Take your hook from left to right, right to left in a full circle. Pull up on your hook so you have a little bit of extra room to get that yarn through. Yarn over and pull through the 2 loops on your hook. We're getting over to the end, so if you're working on an afghan or something that's larger than our swatch, you're going to work the twisted single crochet in each chain across until you get to that last chain. The last chain, we're going to work a regular single crochet. So let's do that twisted single crochet one more time. Insert into that next chain, yarn over, pull through, pull up on that hook until you create a loop twice as long as the loop on your hook. Turn that hook from left to right, right to left in a full circle. Pull up, yarn over, and pull through the 2 loops on your hook. And when you look at this stitch, if that was the last stitch, you can see how that stitch wants to extend over the end. So the nicest, easiest way to do this stitch pattern is to start and end with a regular single crochet. Insert into that last chain and work a single crochet. And that is the end of row 1, and that is what your work should look like. You start the row with a single crochet, work your twisted single crochet over, and end the row with a single crochet. So now row 2 is the repeat row. It will be just a little bit harder. The technique is the same, but it's learning where to put your stitches. You're going to chain 1 and you're going to turn your work. You're going to skip that beginning chain 1, insert into that first stitch. So if you follow your chain 1 down, you'll see that beginning single crochet. Insert underneath the top 2 loops of that first single crochet and work a regular single crochet stitch. So now comes the part where it gets a little bit harder. Once you learn this stitch and you do a few rows, you'll have no problem at all doing this stitch. So what you want to look for is you want to look for your slanted vertical stitch. So with each twisted single crochet you do, it creates a V form. You can see that V coming up in each stitch. So you're going to be looking, let me take my hook out and show this to you better. What you're going to be looking at is you're going to be looking for this slanted vertical stitch. It's right here. It's the longest stitch. You want the one on the top. So you'll see the short one that goes underneath, and then you'll see this vertical slanted one that's on top. This is the stitch that you want to look for when you're doing the next stitch. You're not going in this stitch. You're going to follow it up and go in the 2 loops right here. So when I do my next stitch, I'm going to look for that slanted vertical stitch. This is on the left side of the stitch. You have 2 pieces of yarn, the short one and then the long slanted one. You'll have 2 strands of yarn up here, so you'll look for the slanted stitch. We work our stitch under these 2 loops. Look for your next slanted stitch. You work under these 2 loops on top. You're just following that stitch up and working at the top of that stitch underneath those top 2 strands. I hope that makes sense. So now let's get into doing it hands-on. So now I want to look for my next twisted stitch. Here it is. Here's that vertical strand coming up. So I want to follow it up to the top, and then I'm going underneath the top 2 strands of that stitch. Insert underneath the top 2 strands. You're going to yarn over and pull through those 2 strands of yarn. You're going to pull up on your hook so it's twice as high as the loop on your hook. Take your hook left to right and then right to left in a full circle. Pull up, yarn over, and pull through. It's the same technique, very easy. It's just knowing where to put the stitches. Find your next vertical stitch. Look at the next stitch. You'll see the V here, the 2 strands coming up. You want to look for the slanted vertical stitch on the left. Just follow it up to the top. Insert at the top of that vertical stitch underneath those top 2 strands of yarn. Yarn over, pull through that stitch, pull up on your hook until the loop is twice as high as the one on your hook. Take your hook left to right, right to left in a full circle, yarn over and pull through. Look for your next slanted vertical stitch, follow it to the top, insert at the top of that stitch and underneath the top 2 loops. Yarn over, pull through that stitch, pull up so that loop is twice as high as the one on your hook. Turn your hook left to right, right to left, pull up on your hook a little, yarn over and pull through the 2 loops on your hook. That is how you do the twisted single crochet. Again, it's confusing. You're on the wrong side of the work. You have a hard time seeing where those stitches are, but once you get the hang of where you're looking and what you're doing, you'll be a breeze at putting this stitch together. So find your next stitch. I can see my vertical stitch here. It's slanted. It's to the right. Follow it to the top. Insert at the top of that stitch and underneath the top 2 loops of that stitch. Yarn over, pull through. Again, you're going to pull up so that loop is twice as high as the one on your hook. Take your hook left to right, right to left in a full circle. Pull up on your hook, yarn over and pull through. I'm going to continue working across the row with you. Look at your work, and if you look, you can see here's your vertical stitch, here's your vertical stitch, here's your vertical stitch. So once you learn where to look and what to look for, it'll get easier. Look for that next slanted vertical stitch, follow it to the top, insert at the top of that stitch and underneath the top 2 strands of that next stitch. Yarn over, pull through. Pull up on your hook until that loop is twice as high as the one on your hook. Take your hook left to right, right to left, pull up, yarn over and pull through. 2 to go. Look for your next stitch. Here's that vertical strand. Follow it to the top, insert at the top of that stitch and underneath the top 2 loops of that stitch, yarn over, pull through. Pull up on your hook until it's twice as high as the one on your hook. Take your hook and turn it left to right, right to left in a full circle. Pull up, yarn over, and pull through. Here's your next stitch. Now when you get to the end, the best way to look, because the last stitch might confuse you, is here I can see that I have that vertical stitch coming up. You can see kind of that slanted part coming down, and then if you turn your work, you'll see that this is the next to the last stitch, and this will be your last stitch where you can see that regular single crochet. So let's continue. Look for that next vertical stitch. Here it is. Follow it to the top, insert at the top of that vertical stitch underneath the top 2 strands of that stitch. Yarn over, pull through, pull up until that loop is twice as high as the one on your hook. Take your hook left to right, right to left in a full circle. Pull up, yarn over, and pull through. You're over to your last stitch, so when you're over here you can kind of see when you turn your work that this is your last stitch. Insert into that last stitch and we're working a regular single crochet. Yarn over, pull through that stitch, yarn over and pull through 2 loops on your hook. And that is all there is to the twisted single crochet stitch. So when you go to start the next row, you're just going to chain 1, you're going to turn your work, you're going to single crochet into that first single crochet stitch, skip that chain 1, insert into that single crochet and work a single crochet. You're going to look for your next vertical stitch, and now you're on the right side of the work, and you can see it's a little bit easier to see those slanted vertical stitches across your work. I'll work one more row with you so you can get the hang of how you do it. Look for your next stitch. Here's that vertical slanted stitch. Follow it to the top, insert at the top and underneath those top 2 strands. Work your twisted single crochet. Find your next stitch. Here's that vertical stitch. Follow it to the top, insert underneath the top 2 strands of that stitch. Yarn over, pull through, pull that loop up, twist your hook in a full circle, yarn over and pull through. Now I'm doing it a little bit faster in this row. Find your next stitch. Here's that vertical stitch. Follow it to the top, insert at the top and underneath those top 2 strands, yarn over, pull through, pull up so your loop is twice as high, turn that hook in a full circle from left to right, pull up, yarn over and pull through. Find your next stitch. Here it is. You can see those vertical stitches. Again, I'm pointing them out to you. Follow that next vertical stitch up to the top, insert at the top of the stitch and underneath the top 2 loops, yarn over, pull through, pull up so the loop is twice as high as the one on your hook. Twist your hook from left to right, right to left in a full circle, pull up on the hook, yarn over and pull through. And that's why it's so important that you keep those stitches loose so you can get in under these top 2 loops. Find your next vertical stitch, follow it up, insert under the top 2 loops of that stitch, yarn over, pull through, pull up on your hook so it's twice as high, twist your hook from left to right, right to left in a full circle, pull up, yarn over and pull through. Find your next stitch, follow it up to the top, insert underneath the top 2 strands of that stitch, yarn over, pull through, pull up so your loop is twice as high as the one on your hook. Take your hook left to right, right to left in a full circle. Pull up, yarn over and pull through. When you look at your work, you'll see this is the last slanted stitch and these 2 go up and this forms your last single crochet. When you look at your work, you can see that's your last stitch because it's different. Find that next vertical stitch, follow it to the top, insert under the top 2 loops of that stitch, yarn over, pull through. Pull up until you have your loop twice as high as the one on the hook. Turn that hook from left to right, right to left in a full circle, pull up, yarn over and pull through. You're over to your last single crochet, insert into that stitch, and work a regular single crochet. And it's the same pattern, and again, when you turn your work, you'll chain one, and it's so easy. Once you start seeing where those vertical slanted stitches are, you know to follow it to the top and go right underneath those 2 loops of that stitch. Just follow that vertical stitch up. I hope you enjoyed this stitch tutorial. This again is Twisted Single Crochet, Stitch of the Week number 60. Very fun, interesting stitch. I do have to say it was a little hard on my hand when I was crocheting my samples. I wasn't used to twisting my wrist with every stitch. So when you keep twisting and twisting, it was kind of hard on my hands because I've crocheted for so long that sometimes this wrist hurts a little bit when I do certain stitches. So if you have trouble with your wrist, just take it slow, take your time. It's a very unusual stitch. It's a really pretty stitch because it has that reversible look to it. So here again are those 3 samples I made using the Twisted Single Crochet stitch. I hope you enjoyed learning this new stitch pattern today. Please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Until next time, happy crocheting, everyone!